Ethan's ship hummed as it glided through the vast darkness of the galaxy. Stars streaked past like silver sparks, and the console in front of him flickered with the readings of distant planets. For years he had traveled alone, mapping uncharted systems, trading rare minerals, and avoiding the politics of the core worlds. Today, however, felt different. Something on the sensor had caught his attention. An unusual energy signature emanating from a small rocky planet in the outskirts of the Zoran cluster. Curiosity pulled him closer. He had learned over the years that curiosity was a double-edged sword. It brought new discoveries, but it could also bring danger. He adjusted the ship's course, descending slowly toward the planet's surface. The terrain was rough. Jagged cliffs cut through the mist, and the air shimmered with a strange, faint green glow. Ethan's boots crunched against the rocky ground as he stepped outside. His scanner beeped softly, highlighting the energy source. It was faint, but definitely artificial. Someone or something was there. He moved cautiously, his eyes scanning every shadow. That's when he saw her. A figure crouched behind a rock, small and slender. Her skin shimmered slightly under the strange light, a color that seemed like a soft mix of silver and green. Her large eyes reflected the glow of the planet, filled with fear and curiosity at the same time. She was unlike any species he had ever encountered. "Hello?" Ethan called gently, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. The alien girl froze, watching him carefully. Her movements were quick and precise, almost feline, but there was a fragility to her as well. She tilted her head, assessing him. Ethan realized she must have sensed the same fear in him as he did in her. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "I just want to know who you are." She didn't answer. Instead, she shifted slightly and disappeared behind the rock. Ethan paused. He could chase her, but he had learned that trust was earned, not forced. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "I'll do this your way." He sat on a nearby boulder, keeping a careful distance. Hours passed, the wind howling over the cliffs, but she didn't leave her hiding spot. Finally, as the night deepened, she stepped out cautiously. Her voice was soft, almost musical. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I could say the same to you," Ethan replied with a small smile. "But I think we might both be far from where we belong." Her eyes studied him. There was intelligence there, but also pain. Ethan noticed faint scars along her arms and legs, evidence of recent danger. "What's your name?" he asked. I am Lyra," she whispered. "I'm Ethan," he said. "I come in peace, Lyra. Can you tell me why you are here alone?" Lyra hesitated. The shadows seemed to grow around her. Finally she spoke, her voice trembling. "They are hunting me. I cannot go back. If they find me, I will be taken." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Who is hunting you?" They want control. My people are different. They do not understand us. They want to use us," Lyra said, her words trailing off into the cold wind. Ethan felt a surge of determination. He had faced dangerous smugglers, pirates, and wild planets, but the idea of innocent life being hunted like prey stirred something deeper within him. He stood and took a step closer. "You're not alone anymore," he said firmly. "I will help you." Lyra's eyes widened. She seemed both relieved and cautious. "Why?" "You don't even know me." Ethan shrugged lightly. "Because it's the right thing to do. That's all the reason I need." The alien girl looked at him for a long moment, then finally nodded. She led him carefully through winding paths between cliffs, showing him places where sensors could not detect movement. Ethan followed, his mind racing with questions, but he kept his focus on staying silent and alert. Eventually, they reached a small cavern hidden behind a waterfall. The water cascaded down, creating a soft curtain hiding the entrance. Inside, the cavern was warm, lit by bioluminescent plants that grew along the walls. Lyra relaxed slightly as they entered, her movements slower, more natural. "You are human?" she asked, sitting down on a smooth stone. "Yes," Ethan said. "From Earth. I travel, I explore, I help when I can." She tilted her head. "You seem different from the others I have seen." Ethan nodded. "I have seen a lot of people. Some are cruel, some are kind. I try to be kind." Lyra's eyes shimmered as if the faint light reflected her curiosity. She studied him silently, then spoke in a quieter tone. "I have been alone for so long. I forgot what it is like to have someone care." Ethan felt a pang of sympathy. "Then don't be alone anymore." "Not tonight. We'll figure out what comes next later." Lyra hesitated, then allowed herself to relax near him. They shared a simple meal of foraged fruits and nutrient pods from Ethan's supplies. He told her stories of Earth, of stars, of human adventures across the galaxy. In return, she shared stories of her home world, a lush planet filled with forests of crystal trees and rivers that glowed under twin moons. As the night deepened, a strange bond formed between them. Ethan admired Lyra's intelligence and courage, and she began to see humans in a new light, not just as conquerors or traitors, but as beings capable of compassion and ingenuity. Suddenly, a sound from outside shattered the calm. The ground trembled as faint but distinct footsteps approached the cavern. Lyra's body tensed immediately. "They found me," she whispered. Ethan stood, scanning the entrance. "Then we need to move now." He grabbed a portable grappling hook from his pack and tossed it toward a ledge above the cavern. "Follow me," he instructed. Together they climbed the rocky path, Ethan guiding her with careful hands and encouraging words. Above the cliff, they found a narrow ledge. From here, Ethan could see the faint outlines of figures searching below. Lyra shivered. "They will not stop until they have me," she said, her voice low and frightened. "Then they will have to get through us first," Ethan said firmly. "I won't let them hurt you." Lyra's eyes widened, but she nodded. The trust between them, fragile at first, had begun to grow. Hours passed as they hid, watching the alien faction search in vain. Ethan realized that survival would take more than courage. It would take planning, resourcefulness, and the kind of clever thinking humans were known for. By dawn, the figures had left, frustrated, and the forest around them was quiet once more. Lyra exhaled a long breath, relief washing over her. "You saved me," she said softly. "No," Ethan replied, shaking his head. "We saved each other. You taught me about your world, your courage. I think humans have a lot to learn from you too." Lyra smiled faintly, a mixture of gratitude and something deeper. "Then I will trust you," she said. Ethan nodded. "Good, because this is only the beginning. There are more dangers ahead, and we will face them together." The two of them stood on the cliff, watching the twin suns rise over the rocky horizon. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest, a sense of purpose, of connection, and of hope. For the first time in a long while, he was not alone in the galaxy, and the future, uncertain as it was, seemed a little brighter. In the quiet light of the new day, Ethan and Lyra prepared to take the first steps of a journey that would test their courage, their intelligence, and their capacity for trust. The bond formed in a single night would shape their lives and, perhaps, the fate of two worlds. And so began the story of a human and an alien, brought together by chance, bound by trust, and united by the spark of hope that only courage and compassion could create. Ethan and Lyra moved cautiously through the dense forests of the alien planet. The trees were tall and glimmered faintly with bioluminescent leaves. Strange creatures scuttled in the shadows, their eyes reflecting light like tiny stars. Every step was careful, silent, as though the planet itself could betray them to their pursuers. "They will come back," Lyra said quietly, her voice barely audible above the wind. "They never forget. They will not stop until they find me." Ethan nodded, scanning the surroundings. "Then we have to be smarter, not just faster." Lyra looked at him, eyes wide. "Smarter? How?" "Humans have a few tricks," Ethan said with a small smile. "We survive by thinking ahead, using what we have and staying unpredictable. You've survived this long. I think together we can stay ahead of them." They moved in silence, avoiding open areas. The alien faction that hunted Lyra was relentless, ruthless, and highly organized. Ethan had seen organized groups before, but nothing like this. They used trackers, sensors, and drones that hovered quietly, scanning for movement. One false step could reveal their location. Hours passed as they navigated the winding paths. Lyra led Ethan to hidden caves and shallow streams, teaching him how her species could detect changes in the environment that humans could not. Ethan admired her intelligence and agility. She was cautious but clever, relying on instincts honed through years of survival. Suddenly, a distant hum reached their ears. Ethan froze. "They are here," Lyra whispered. Ethan peered through the shadows. A group of alien hunters moved through the trees, their sleek armor reflecting faint green light. They were looking for Lyra, scanning every area carefully. Ethan's mind raced. Retreating back the way they came was impossible. They would be caught. "We need a distraction," Ethan muttered. Lyra tilted her head. "A distraction? What do you mean?" "Something to confuse them, to make them look the wrong way while we move," Ethan explained. He scanned the forest floor and spotted several large glowing mushrooms. With careful precision, he knocked them over, releasing a cloud of spores that glimmered brightly in the dim light. The hunters paused, scanning the area, trying to locate the source. Lyra smiled faintly. "Clever," Ethan nodded. "It's a start, but we have to keep moving." They continued through the forest, using every trick they could. Ethan used ropes and small hooks to swing across streams, creating paths that the hunters could not follow easily. Lyra helped him navigate with her knowledge of the terrain, leading him through hidden tunnels and over cliffs that seemed impossible to climb. By midnight, they reached a narrow valley with jagged rocks and thick mist, the perfect place to hide but also treacherous. Ethan checked the scanner on his wrist. The hunters were nearby, moving carefully, almost like predators themselves. "They will search until dawn," Lyra whispered. "We cannot stay here too long," Ethan nodded. "Then we prepare. We need a safe way out, but also something to slow them down if they come closer." He gathered fallen branches, vines, and rocks, crafting simple traps, small pitfalls disguised by leaves, swinging ropes that could tangle the feet of pursuers, and noisemakers that would alert them if anyone approached. Lyra watched, her eyes wide with admiration. "You really think like a human," she said. "You can make a plan from almost nothing." Ethan smiled faintly. "We survive that way. That's what humans do. We think, we adapt, we endure." Hours passed as they worked. Finally, everything was ready. They found a hidden ledge above the valley, a narrow passage that could take them away from the hunters entirely. It was risky, but it was the only chance. Ethan gestured to Lyra. "We move together, step by step, and trust me." She nodded. "I trust you." They climbed carefully, using vines and rocks, their movements silent and deliberate. The mist below concealed them partially from view, but the hunters were relentless. A drone hovered near the valley, scanning for movement. Ethan held his breath as Lyra slipped past a sharp rock ledge. Suddenly, a branch snapped under Ethan's weight. He froze, heart pounding. The drone's sensors glimmered briefly, and one of the hunters looked up. "There!" a voice called. Ethan acted quickly. He grabbed a small device from his pack and activated it. A bright flash erupted, reflecting off the mist and trees, temporarily blinding the sensors. The hunters shouted, scanning the area frantically, but the distraction gave Ethan and Lyra the time they needed. They climbed higher, reaching the hidden passage. It was narrow, almost a tunnel formed naturally through the cliffs. The air was damp, and the walls shimmered faintly with mineral veins. Lyra looked at Ethan, a mixture of fear and admiration in her eyes. "You saved us," she said softly. "No," Ethan replied. "We saved ourselves together. That's how humans survive. We don't give up." The tunnel led them to a plateau above the forest. From there, they could see the alien hunters moving below, frustrated and confused. Ethan let out a slow breath. They had survived the night, but he knew it was only the beginning. "They will come again," Lyra said. "And next time they may bring more." Ethan nodded. "Then we prepare. We stay alert. We use what we know. Humans are good at surviving against the odds, and so are you." Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a warmth she had not known in years. She had been running alone for so long, but now she had an ally. Someone who did not see her as weak or strange, but as intelligent and capable. As dawn approached, they found a hidden grove, where the sunlight filtered through the mist, casting sparkling patterns on the ground. Ethan and Lyra rested briefly, eating the supplies they had carried. The forest was alive with strange birds and glowing insects, the beauty of the planet a sharp contrast to the danger that had hunted them. "We need a long-term plan," Ethan said. "Hiding forever won't work." "They will keep coming," Lyra nodded. "I know, my people. They need help. If we could reach them, maybe we could protect them. But it is far and dangerous." Ethan studied the horizon. "Then we take it one step at a time. First survive, then find allies, then we fight smart, not just with weapons but with brains." Lyra considered his words. She had seen many humans before, most selfish or cruel. But Ethan was different. He was brave, clever, and kind. Somehow she trusted him more than she had trusted anyone in a long time. Hours turned into a day as they planned their next move. Ethan shared stories of humans who had faced impossible odds. Explorers, scientists, inventors. Lyra shared stories of her people, their traditions, and their strengths. Together they realized that their differences made them stronger. By nightfall, the forest was quiet again. Ethan and Lyra climbed to a vantage point, scanning the area. The alien hunters were still searching, but for now they were far enough to plan the next move. Ethan placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You are not alone anymore. I will help you and we will find a way to save your people, together." Lyra's eyes shimmered. "I believe you, and I will follow you." The night was long, filled with whispers of wind and distant sounds of unknown creatures. But for the first time, Lyra felt a sense of safety. Not complete safety, but a new hope. A feeling that perhaps with humans like Ethan, even the most dangerous worlds could be faced. Ethan looked at the stars above, thinking about the journey ahead. They would face challenges, dangers, and enemies far stronger than themselves. But he also knew that humans had one strength that few others possessed, the ability to think, adapt, and act with courage. And tonight he had proved it, not just for himself, but for Lyra. The bond between them, forged in the perilous night, was more than survival. It was trust, respect, and the first spark of something that could grow into a lifelong alliance. And so, as the twin moons rose over the misty forest, Ethan and Lyra prepared for the next step in their journey. Together, ready to face whatever dangers the galaxy might throw at them. The forest had grown quiet since the last pursuit, but Ethan and Lyra knew it was only a temporary reprieve. From the high plateau where they had rested, they could see the alien hunters' patrols moving slowly through the mist below. Lyra shivered at the memory of those relentless pursuers. "We can't stay hidden forever," Ethan said, scanning the horizon with his hand shielding his eyes. "We need a plan, a way to help your people without walking into a trap." Lyra nodded, her mind already racing. "They are held in a stronghold. It is heavily guarded. My people are not many, but they have skills. If we can reach them, we can organize, hide, and maybe even fight back. But the path is dangerous." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then we make it less dangerous. Humans have a habit of using brains over brawn. That's what I do best." She raised an eyebrow. "Brains over brawn. You are very confident for someone who is human." Ethan chuckled softly. "Confidence is part of it, but preparation is everything." They began to plan, sitting on a rock ledge as the twin suns set behind distant mountains. Ethan drew crude diagrams in the dirt with a stick, marking patrol routes, cliffs, and hidden paths. Lyra added her knowledge of the terrain, correcting his maps with precise details only a native of the planet would know. "The guards change shifts every 6 cycles," Lyra explained. "If we move quickly and silently, we can slip past most of them. But there are drones and the gates are strong. We cannot rely on force alone." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "Then we rely on strategy. We create distractions, mislead them, and get your people to safety without fighting directly. Humans are good at improvising. We can build tools, devices, traps, nothing lethal, just enough to confuse and delay." Lyra watched him with admiration. "You are very clever. Most humans I have heard about are reckless, relying on weapons and strength. You think first." Ethan shrugged. "Thinking first usually saves more lives." They worked through the night, preparing. Ethan taught Lyra how to make simple alarms using natural materials, and how to create temporary hiding spots using the glowing flora around them. Lyra shared her species' abilities, how they could sense changes in the air, detect vibrations, and move silently across difficult terrain. Combining human ingenuity with alien instincts, they created a plan that felt daring but achievable. By morning, they were ready to move. Ethan and Lyra descended carefully from the plateau, navigating narrow ledges and hidden paths that avoided the patrols. Below them lay a valley that led to the outskirts of the alien faction's stronghold. The valley was wide, dotted with strange glowing plants and crystalline rocks. It was beautiful yet dangerous, a place where one wrong step could reveal them. "We have to be careful here," Ethan whispered. "These plants might look harmless, but some of them react to pressure and light. We don't want alarms going off before we reach the first checkpoint." Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the ground as she led Ethan step by step. Slowly, deliberately, they crossed the valley, holding their breath as tiny creatures scuttled past, their movements casting shadows that might have been mistaken for human presence by any watchful sensors. Finally, they reached the edge of the stronghold, a massive structure of black stone and glowing panels. Guard towers rose at regular intervals. Drones hovered above, and patrolling figures moved with mechanical precision. Ethan crouched behind a rock, observing. "They are well organized," he said, "but every organization has a pattern. We just need to find it." Lyra studied the gates and patrols carefully. "There is a blind spot here," she said, pointing to a shadowed corner. The drones do not see it because of the angle of the cliffs. If we move through there, we can get inside without detection. Ethan grinned. Good, that's our path. Now, distractions. He pulled a small device from his pack, a simple noise emitter he had built from scavenged parts. With a flick, it released a series of high-pitched tones that drew the attention of the guards and drones in the opposite direction. Shadows moved as they investigated the sounds, leaving the blind spot largely unmonitored. Go, Ethan whispered. Lyra and Ethan slipped into the shadows, moving silently toward the hidden entrance. Inside, the stronghold was dimly lit, cold and filled with the hum of machinery. They hugged the walls, avoiding patrols, and followed Lyra's instincts to reach the cells where her people were held. When they arrived, Lyra's heart raced. She could see her people, small in number but alert, some fearful, some trying to stay calm. A few had noticed her, and their eyes widened in recognition. You came for us, one whispered. Lyra nodded, unable to speak. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We're getting you out. Quietly, carefully. Follow us and trust the plan. They worked quickly. Ethan used simple tools to unlock the cell doors, while Lyra guided her people silently through the hidden corridors she remembered from her time in captivity. Every corner held potential danger. Every turn could bring them face to face with their enemies. But the combination of human ingenuity and alien knowledge kept them safe. As they reached a wide hall, a patrol appeared unexpectedly. Ethan acted without hesitation. He tossed a small rock at a sensor, causing it to blink and emit a sound that drew the guards away. Lyra led her people through the side passage, hearts pounding but feet steady. Finally, they reached an outer gate. Beyond it, the open valley stretched out, a path to freedom but not without risk. Ethan looked around. Almost there. We just have to cross this last part and we're free. Lyra's eyes shone with hope and determination. We can do it. Together. The group moved carefully across the valley, using every trick they had learned, moving silently, using shadows for cover, and occasionally creating small distractions to mislead patrols. Ethan felt a surge of pride and admiration for Lyra and her people. They were courageous, intelligent, and resilient. Humans and aliens, working together, could achieve remarkable things. Just as they neared the far edge, a warning alarm sounded faintly in the distance. The faction had discovered the breach and was mobilizing reinforcements. Ethan whispered quickly, "Move faster. We'll use the trees and cliffs to cover us." Lyra led the way, her instincts flawless. They climbed rocks, swung across streams, and ducked behind trees, all while keeping the group together. The hunters' shouts grew louder, but the distance between them and Ethan's clever maneuvers widened. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a hidden cave on the outskirts of the valley. Safe for now. The group collapsed, exhausted but relieved. You saved us, Lyra said, her voice trembling with gratitude. No, Ethan said firmly. We saved ourselves. We worked together. That's the strength of humans, and your people too. Cooperation, courage, thinking ahead. That's what wins battles without fighting directly. Lyra smiled faintly. I think we can do more. We can protect more of my people. We can make them strong, Ethan nodded. Yes, but first we rest. Tomorrow we plan the next step. The journey is long and the challenges will grow. But humans and aliens working together can overcome more than either could alone. As night fell, they gathered around a small fire, its light reflecting on the cave walls. Ethan shared stories of human explorers who had faced impossible odds, inventors who had solved problems no one thought possible, and leaders who had united people for a common cause. Lyra shared stories of her culture, traditions, and dreams for her people's future. In that quiet moment, trust and respect between Ethan and Lyra deepened. They were no longer simply two beings from different worlds. They were allies, united by a shared goal and the bond of survival. Ethan looked at Lyra, thinking of the challenges ahead. We will face dangers and we may stumble, but we will not give up. Humans do not give up easily, and now neither will I. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with newfound hope. Then we will succeed. Together. The cave was quiet, filled with soft sounds of breathing and the distant calls of night creatures. Outside, the world remained dangerous, but inside, a spark of hope had been lit, a spark that would guide them in the battles yet to come. And so, the plan to save Lyra's people had begun. It would be dangerous, clever, and demanding. But with Ethan's ingenuity and Lyra's instincts, the path forward seemed possible. The alliance of human and alien had proven its first success, and the next steps promised to be even greater. Together, they would face the challenges, protect the innocent, and prove that courage, intelligence, and cooperation were the most powerful tools in the galaxy. The night was deep and quiet, but Ethan knew it was only a temporary calm. He and Lyra sat near the entrance of the hidden cave, reviewing their plans for the next stage, moving Lyra's people to a safer location far from the alien faction's reach. The journey would be long and dangerous, and every step needed careful thought. Lyra had grown confident under Ethan's guidance. Her people trusted her decisions, and now they began to trust Ethan as well. Together they had navigated treacherous terrain, outsmarted hunters, and reached safety once. But Ethan knew the faction would not give up. They would strike back stronger and smarter. "We need to move before dawn," Ethan said, checking the positions on the crude map he had drawn. "The patrols will change soon. If we act quickly, we can stay ahead of them." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but I fear they will have reinforcements. Their numbers may increase." "That's okay," Ethan replied. "Numbers mean less if we are clever. Humans survive by thinking, by adapting. And so do you." The first rays of the twin suns filtered through the cave entrance, casting a pale light on the forest. Ethan and Lyra led the group of aliens carefully through winding paths. They avoided open areas, sticking to shadows and overgrown trails. Every sound was measured, every movement cautious. But the alien faction had anticipated that the fugitives would try to escape. A sudden tremor shook the ground. Ethan looked up. Drones hovered above the treetops, scanning the forest below. Patrols moved closer. "They've found us sooner than expected," Ethan whispered. "We have to split the group. Smaller groups move faster and are harder to track." Lyra hesitated. "But separating them is dangerous." "It's safer than getting caught all together," Ethan said firmly. "We'll regroup at the rendezvous point near the river delta." Reluctantly, Lyra agreed. She divided her people into two groups, each led by trusted members, while she stayed with Ethan and a smaller team. They moved quickly, using hidden paths and natural cover. Ethan's knowledge of human tactics proved invaluable, helping them avoid detection and stay several steps ahead of the pursuing hunters. The drones hovered closer, sensing movement in the trees. Ethan had prepared for this. He tossed small reflective devices into the foliage, creating illusions of movement in the opposite direction. The drones followed the false trails, giving Ethan and Lyra enough time to move the group safely. Hours passed, and the sun rose higher. Sweat dripped from their brows, but they did not stop. Every step was calculated. The alien hunters had tracked some of Lyra's people before, and Ethan knew that patience and clever distractions were their only chance. Suddenly, a distant alarm echoed through the forest. The faction had realized the deception. The hunters increased their speed, determined to capture Lyra and her people. Ethan knew this was the moment that would test them all. "We have to slow them down," he whispered. "We can't fight them directly, but we can make them hesitate." He scanned the surroundings and spotted a narrow canyon with sharp cliffs on both sides. If the hunters pursued, they could be funneled into a trap. Ethan explained his plan to Lyra. Using fallen logs, rocks, and vines, they could create obstacles that would slow the hunters without harming anyone. Lyra understood immediately and began coordinating her people to help. As they reached the canyon, Ethan and Lyra worked quickly. They rolled boulders into choke points, tied vines across narrow paths, and created decoy signals using small reflective panels. When the first of the hunters arrived, they were slowed by the unexpected obstacles. The drones' sensors were confused by the moving shadows and reflective surfaces. "Go. Move now!" Ethan shouted to Lyra and the group. They sprinted across the canyon, hearts pounding, adrenaline surging. The hunters struggled behind them, but the traps worked perfectly, giving the fugitives the lead they needed. Lyra looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with awe. "Your ideas, they work." "You are remarkable, Ethan." He smiled faintly, though he did not have time to rest. "It's not me alone. It's humans and your people together. That's what makes us strong." They continued moving, reaching a cliffside trail that led to a hidden plateau. From there, they could see the river delta where the rest of Lyra's people were waiting. But the hunters were relentless. Ethan knew they could not outrun them forever. "We need a final distraction," he said. "Something to make them stop long enough for everyone to reach safety." Lyra looked around, thinking quickly. The geysers near the northern ridge. If we trigger one, the steam and noise will block their view. Ethan nodded. Perfect. Let's do it. They carefully moved toward the ridge, avoiding detection. Using stones and simple levers, they triggered the geothermal vents. Suddenly, steam erupted in towering clouds, filling the valley below with mist. The hunters stumbled, confused, and the drone's sensors were disrupted by the heat and movement. Now, Ethan shouted, move. Lyra and her people raced across the plateau, slipping into the dense forest and toward the river delta. Ethan stayed near the ridge, making sure the path remained clear. His heart pounded, but he knew the human ability to think fast, improvise, and act courageously was their strongest weapon. As the group reached the river delta, they were greeted by more of Lyra's people, hidden and waiting. Relief washed over everyone, but Ethan noticed movement from the ridge. Some hunters were still attempting to climb, and Ethan realized that they would not give up easily. He turned to Lyra. Go with them. I'll hold them off for as long as I can. Lyra's eyes widened. No, we need you. I'm human, Ethan said firmly. Humans endure, trust me. Get them to safety. With that, Ethan stayed behind, using every skill he had learned in his travels. He led the remaining hunters through a series of narrow paths, cliffs, and obstacles he had prepared earlier. Rocks fell, vines tangled, and the terrain slowed them down. Ethan's knowledge of strategy and quick thinking kept him one step ahead of the hunters at all times. Meanwhile, Lyra and her people reached the river delta. Using boats and makeshift rafts, they began to cross safely, guided by the currents and Lyra's intimate knowledge of the waterways. Her people's spirits lifted, inspired by the courage of both Lyra and Ethan. Hours later, as the last of Lyra's people reached the opposite shore, she turned back toward the ridge. Smoke and mist rose from the canyon, obscuring the view, but she knew Ethan had done everything possible to protect them. Ethan finally made his way down the cliffs, exhausted but smiling. He had used every ounce of ingenuity, every skill he had learned to ensure the safety of Lyra and her people. He was battered, tired, and bruised, but he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Humans were known for endurance and cleverness, and he had proven it not just to himself but to an entire alien species. Lyra ran to him, her eyes shining with gratitude. You saved us all. I cannot thank you enough, Ethan. Ethan shook his head. No, we saved each other. Humans are clever, but courage and trust make us stronger. That's what we have. That's why we survive. Together they watched the river flow, the twin suns rising higher and casting golden light on the water. The alien hunters had been delayed, frustrated, and scattered. For now, Lyra's people were safe and a new hope had been born. Lyra turned to Ethan. You risked everything for us. I will never forget this. We will honor you and the humans who stand for courage and kindness. Ethan smiled. You don't have to honor me. Just live, protect your people, and remember that humans, though strange, can be trusted allies. The group spent the day resting, treating minor injuries and sharing stories. Ethan and Lyra worked together to plan the next phase, moving her people to a permanent safe haven, far from the reach of the alien faction. Every obstacle they had faced strengthened their bond and proved that humans and aliens, working together, could accomplish the impossible. As night fell again, Ethan and Lyra stood together on the riverbank, looking at the stars above. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but hope shone brighter than any threat. Humans had the courage, ingenuity, and compassion to face challenges beyond imagination, and tonight that strength had saved lives. Lyra smiled faintly. I feel something new. Trust, courage, and perhaps friendship, even more than that. Ethan nodded. Yes, together we can face anything. Humans survive, adapt, and endure, and now so will your people. The night was still, but their hearts were filled with purpose. They had faced danger, outsmarted enemies, and proven the strength of human ingenuity and alien courage combined. The ultimate sacrifice had been made not through loss but through courage, clever thinking, and unwavering determination. And so, the journey continued, stronger, wiser, and united. Humanity had proven its worth once again, and the galaxy had begun to recognize that courage, intelligence, and empathy could overcome even the greatest threats. The river delta had become a sanctuary for Lyra's people. Hidden among the thick forests and winding waterways, it was a place where the alien faction's reach could not easily follow. For the first time in years, Lyra's people felt safe. Children played near the water, elders tended to small gardens, and the community began to heal from the fear and uncertainty that had plagued them for so long. Ethan stood at the edge of the riverbank, watching the activity with a quiet sense of pride. He had faced countless dangers across the galaxy, but nothing compared to the challenge of protecting an entire alien society while navigating unfamiliar terrain and unpredictable enemies. Yet through courage, intelligence, and teamwork, they had succeeded. Lyra approached him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You have done more than I could have imagined. My people are safe, and it is because of you." Ethan shook his head, smiling. "No, Lyra, it is because of all of us, your people, you and humans working together. That is how we survive. That is what makes us strong." She nodded, understanding the truth in his words. Yes, together we are stronger than any danger. The following days were busy. Ethan and Lyra worked side by side, helping Lyra's people fortify their sanctuary. Using human ingenuity, they built simple yet effective defenses, watchtowers made of local materials, hidden paths that allowed for safe travel, and signaling systems using light reflections and sound vibrations. Lyra taught Ethan more about her people's abilities, showing him how they could sense changes in the environment, detect approaching danger, and communicate silently across distances. It was a remarkable combination, human innovation paired with alien intuition. The sanctuary became more secure with every passing day. And yet the work was not only about safety, it was also about rebuilding hope. Lyra's people had been afraid for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to dream. Ethan encouraged them to explore, to create, and to imagine a future free from fear. He shared stories of Earth, of human exploration, of cities built from nothing, of inventions that had changed lives. The aliens listened, fascinated, inspired by the possibilities that intelligence and courage could bring. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the delta, Lyra approached Ethan. "I have been thinking," she said softly. "Your presence here has changed everything, not just for my people, but for me." Ethan looked at her curiously. "How do you mean?" Lyra hesitated for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You have shown me courage, patience, and trust. You have risked everything for us. I feel that I want to stand by you, not just as an ally, but as a partner, someone who walks beside you in all things." Ethan's heart lifted. He had faced countless dangers and survived by thinking and acting cleverly, but he had never anticipated a bond like this. One built not on fear or obligation, but on respect, trust, and shared purpose. "I feel the same, Lyra," he replied. "Humans are not always perfect, but we endure, we care. And I want to continue this journey with you side by side." Lyra's smile widened. "Then it is settled. We will face the galaxy together." The next weeks were spent strengthening the sanctuary and preparing for the future. Ethan helped design sustainable energy systems using the local resources, small water turbines for the rivers, and simple shelters that could withstand harsh weather. Lyra's people learned quickly, their natural abilities amplified by human guidance and strategy. But the true strength of the alliance was not only in technology or defense. It was in trust, communication, and shared courage. Ethan encouraged Lyra's people to think for themselves, to plan, and to act intelligently. He reminded them that every being, no matter how small, could make a difference when united in purpose. One morning, while observing the children playing by the river, Ethan realized something profound. These young ones, who had once been hidden in fear, were now free to explore, to learn, and to grow. Humanity's greatest strength was not only survival or ingenuity, it was the ability to inspire courage and hope in others. And now that strength was spreading to another species. As the sanctuary flourished, word of Ethan's presence and the successful escape of Lyra's people reached other nearby systems. Aliens from neighboring worlds, previously wary of humans, began to see them in a new light. Humans could be trusted allies, capable of courage, intelligence, and compassion. Ethan realized that their actions here could inspire not just one community, but many across the galaxy. One evening, Lyra and Ethan stood on a hill overlooking the delta. The twin moons cast silver light across the water, illuminating the thriving settlement. "Look at them," Lyra said softly. "They are no longer afraid. They are free." Ethan smiled. "Yes, and this is only the beginning. With trust, courage, and cooperation, we can help even more. Humans endure, adapt, and survive. And now your people have learned to do the same with a little help. Lyra turned to him. We are partners in this journey, Ethan. Not just for survival, but for hope, for building a better future. Ethan nodded. Exactly. And together we will face whatever comes next. Humans and aliens side by side. The days turned into weeks and the sanctuary became a beacon of hope. Ethan trained Lyra's people in strategies to remain vigilant, while Lyra taught him more about her culture and abilities. The combination of knowledge and courage created a society prepared not only to defend itself but to thrive. But it was not all work. There were moments of laughter, exploration, and simple joy. Children learned to play human games and adults shared stories of the past, envisioning a future free from fear. Ethan and Lyra grew closer, their bond solidified by shared challenges, mutual respect, and the knowledge that they had saved lives together. One afternoon, as they walked along a hidden path, Lyra spoke softly. Ethan, you have changed everything. Not just for me, but for everyone here. You have shown us that courage, intelligence, and trust can overcome even the greatest danger. Ethan looked at her, humility in his expression. Humans have always believed in doing what is right, even when it is hard. And sometimes we need a partner to help us see the best path. That is what you have been to me, Lyra, an inspiration, a friend, and a guide. Lyra smiled, her eyes shining. Then let us continue this journey together, always, for the safety of my people and for the future of both our worlds. Ethan nodded. Yes. Forever. Together they returned to the Delta, their spirits strong, hearts full, and minds focused on the work ahead. The sanctuary thrived, a testament to the strength of human ingenuity, courage, and the bonds of trust between species. Aliens and humans worked side by side, building a community that could withstand any challenge. As the twin moons rose that night, Ethan and Lyra stood at the riverbank, watching the water reflect the light of the stars. The journey had been long and dangerous, filled with obstacles, fear, and uncertainty. But through courage, cleverness, and mutual trust, they had overcome every challenge. Lyra turned to Ethan, her expression soft and sincere. I never imagined that one night could change everything. But it did. You showed me what humans can be, caring, brave, and clever, and together we will create a future worth living. Ethan took her hand gently. And you have shown me that courage and wisdom come in many forms. Together humans and aliens can face anything. Together we are stronger. The river flowed quietly, carrying their reflections and the glow of the twin moons. Around them life continued to grow, laugh, and thrive. The sanctuary had become more than a refuge. It was a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of cooperation. Ethan and Lyra knew there would be challenges ahead, but they also knew they were no longer alone. They had each other, and together with their combined peoples, they had the intelligence, courage, and trust to face any obstacle. The stars above twinkled, silent witnesses to the bond forged between human and alien, a bond of respect, friendship, and shared purpose. Humanity had once again proven its value, not just through strength but through cleverness, compassion, and courage. And so, the journey of Ethan and Lyra continued. Two worlds once distant and separate, now united by trust, bravery, and the hope for a brighter future. Together they would explore new worlds, face unknown dangers, and continue to inspire hope across the galaxy. For in the vast expanse of space, one truth remained. When humans and aliens work together, guided by courage, intelligence, and compassion, nothing is impossible. The river flowed, the moon shone, and the stars watched over a new alliance, a new beginning, and a future filled with endless possibilities.